Welcome to the House of War. Today on Breaking Chains, I want to just read something I wrote years ago, and I want you to just sit back and listen and enjoy the voices of women at risk and the sounds and the joyful celebration of survivors who are set free. There's a story behind every recording on this CD. There's a story behind this CD itself of healing and hope. Each song chosen here is for a reason, and each song has a story. It's a worship experience of rescue, renewal, refreshment, and redemption and reward. Often I talk to people who have bought the CD and listened to it, and they jokingly tell me that if I ever pull up to a stoplight in Grand Rapids and look over and see a woman crying in her car, it's my fault because she's listening to the voices of war. But as I was sitting in Reba McEntire's studio years ago and was journaling, I was journaling as I watched survivors sing songs of their own choosing, and some they wrote themselves. One, Alanka, a survivor, her passion is singing through the pain and celebrating the journey of healing. In the plan of God, she walked into our headquarters one day to meet me, and I was just stepping out of my office with another survivor. And she walked up and I said, "Survivor, meet survivor," and asked them to sing. And in the shelter of the war boutique and headquarters, they sang and bound our hearts. The shoppers that were listening stopped and held their breath as they witnessed the unique circle of protection that exists between survivors. It's a powerful trauma bond, an invisible bond that held their bodies and their hearts captive, and they find safety and rescue and refuge in each other's presence. They know that each other will hold their heart tenderly, without judgment, and with eyes too old for their soul, having walked the same path. But that day, the dream of recording their voices was born. As I listened to their voices blend, I thought, we need to give voice to their silenced cries. And so for 3 days, survivors poured out their heart in song. I took them to Reba McEntire's studio in Nashville, and they were sisters not by blood, but by blood, sweat, and tears of their shared trauma, and a bond far deeper than biology, a bond that calls to that yearning that we all have for healthy intimacy and fellowship and safety with others. So get a cup of coffee, maybe a cup of tea, curl up and join us in Reba's living room to hear the sounds of sorrow turned into great joy. To the only wise God, all glory to Him. Great things He has done over and over and over. They sang into the atmosphere, daring evil to whisper any more lies. On the video, I asked Alanka with her lilting South African voice to read to you from my journal. And the first chapter in the 11 chapters is her reading from my journal. And I sat and scribbled for 3 days as we sang, laughed, cried, prayed, and sang again. Reba McEntire's studio didn't look like a studio. Sure, there were buttons everywhere that magically controlled the sound, but it looked like a home. It made me so happy. I knew my survivors would feel like we were hanging out in a cozy, safe place. There was a Persian carpet. There was a loft that elegantly hung over the musician's room. There was a grand piano and a bouquet of roses that one survivor gave another. And there was green leather couches that we sipped coffee and donuts and whatever we wanted from Reba's kitchen. Outside on the way into the studio, there were fountains that welcomed you with lifelike statues of horses drinking deeply from its waters. It reminded me of the verse, "Deer panting for the water." This is good, I thought. I feel at home. I looked at the 3 lives I collected for that day, and I thought, oh, evil, You picked on these girls, and when you did, you picked on the wrong crowd because they've been to hell and back, and you cannot keep them down. Now there's this mighty little army, well, it's not so little after all anymore, rising up to be a wall of fire and a hedge of protection, a circle of worth and dignity. We will not run from the battle. We will fight for peace. We work tirelessly to create a legacy of safe places. Someday, some of you listening to this may be hurting. And you may listen to this music, or you may be listening to it while you're walking a valley of shadows with a broken loved one. And my prayer is that you will let this music in this safe place just filter into your deepest wounds, into your frightening valleys, into your highest goals, and just let it water the rich soil of your dreams. Let it turn your eyes from the valley of shadows to the shepherd that's walking, looking to the big God, not the big problem. So close your eyes and see the great shepherd, the creator Elohim, who made you far above sparrows. I looked at the pain on their faces as they sang, and I determined, so help me God, to buy it back, one tear, one song at a time. I wanted to see their tears turn to tears of joy, away from sorrow with a new hope. I closed my eyes and I imagined that room filled with you listeners. And I want to wrap my arms of love tightly around you. I want you to feel the presence like light seeping into the darkness. The collection of songs that they chose is adored by me. I know the stories and subplots of why they chose or even wrote each one. When I first met Dee, in her darkest hour, I offered her a way out, and she burst into song over the filth and horror of that place, and she sang "His Eye is on the Sparrow," and that is recorded on this CD. Escaping, she has not quit singing since. She became our top jeweler in the U.S. Training Center, where we shelter women here in the land of the free running, and where they need work with dignity while they heal. She was a tiny sparrow. But in that hour, with safe women surrounding her, she knew she'd been set free. No matter what the problem you face, He knows your name. You can hide in the shelter of His wings, little sparrow. Jesus Loves Me is a child's lullaby that tells us to come innocent and trusting and humble and ready to grow. And I want you to just embrace the safety of that lullaby. Jesus loves me, this I know. Or you can say, Jesus knows me, this I love. How much better that is. It's profound simplicity. It's true. Another survivor wrote the song Safe. 3 decades of lifting wounded men, women, children has taught me one profound truth. No one, take away all the cultures of the world, no one heals until they feel safe. We were created for a beautiful garden, not a broken world, where risk is rampant. So our goal as an organization is to create safe places for the broken to find their voice, whether it be in art or as an artisan or in a scholarship or in song, as this CD shows. But every culture of the world defines safety differently. So, no 2 safe houses in the world are alike in all the 50 countries, but they have to be culturally sensitive. We don't export or promote one culture over another, but we tailor safety to each land, making each one powerful and relevant. A survivor of abuse is beaten into silence and keeps secrets really well. They've lost their voice and they're afraid to speak of their pain. The world outside tells them the lie that it's not safe to speak. When something's precious and is robbed from you, it's so easy to blame yourself. Speak out. Break the frame that silences you and find your voice in a circle of protection where you can whisper truth. Pain loses its power when it's brought into the light. Find your voice. Listen to these songs and let it encourage you to find your voice and empower those around you to do the same. The same survivor wrote the song Safe in You, just for us. Psalm 121 says, I look to the hills, my strength comes from God. He won't let you stumble, your guardian. God doesn't sleep or slumber. He guards you from every evil. At your right hand, He protects you, and He will leave and return now and always. Another survivor sings on this CD. A tiny little girl raised in a Christian home, sent to a Christian school, not allowed to watch TV to keep her innocent. Yep, she was that. And that naivety was targeted by a scam agency who sold her and lured her to a job lure and sold her to the Japanese Yakuza, the mafia, where they raped and tortured her, and she miraculously escaped. Today, she's a recording artist in Nashville, and when she first came into my life 2 years ago, she was in a wheelchair from the torture done to her. But today, she stands triumphant with flaming red hair and clear blue eyes and a heart so soft that she prays for her abusers every day. In this song, you will hear her sing Amazing Grace. It will give you goosebumps. And you will hear her tell of how she wrote one of the songs as an ode to the Japanese mafia. The very people who robbed her innocence, she wrote an ode. An ode is sort of like a poem, and it's meant to be sung in praise of a person. And after dozens of evil people stole her purity, her heart is embedded in the song that she wrote to them, giving back love. What a testimony. Listen closely to her words and weep if you want at the power of God in a tiny life of a broken doll who returns evil with good. When I'm tired and weary and worn from the brokenness of the horror that we daily deal with here, and calls from Homeland Security looking for a 6-month-old in the land of the free, or one more baby in captivity, or building the house of war, I run to Dee. I close my eyes and I say, sing to me. Her voice is like an angel. Wings just sweep over my soul. As she sings, sweep over my soul. And the breath of heaven just pours steel in my sagging backbone. And it sends me out with renewed passion. So I know these songs feel mean, but you can listen to it and let them celebrate the rescue of women trapped in darkness of every sort, because they break chains. And at the beginning of every breaking chains, you'll hear a short clip, and that's Dee singing on this CD, professionally recorded in Reba McEntire's studio, Breaking Chains. It's hard when you witness a child who's 7 brought in after abuse for 11 months, and you rock her in your arms and you swing upside down on the swing set. Hers were literal chains. And the journey of her healing will require breaking invisible chains, the trauma bonds that loudly roar so many lives into our lives. So you will hear the women sing, whisper sweetly, softly, and tenderly the name of Jesus, who alone reclaims, renews, restores, revives, refreshes, and redeems. We all need to be refreshed right now, don't we? But God does not waste our pain. He turns it into a mighty force to change the world. We are a mighty army The men and women of Women at Risk International War are rising up to set the captive free. Join us and let our whispers be a roar that drowns out the voice of evil and restores the captive. We are like the children of God, who the giants in the land saw as a lion and lioness arising. Watch out, giants. We are on the move. The last song is written by 3 sisters called Healer of My Heart. Now these 3 sisters, under the protection of Women at Risk, join their voices in a mighty song proclaiming healing in the journey, like a little eaglet taking shelter under the wings of a fierce eagle mom. We run with our wounded, arm in arm, trembling, to the only safe place, the healer of our hearts. We declare worth and dignity that they already have, that has been stolen from them, and we hide them in the shelter of his wings. These survivors are my heroes. I learn more at their feet about the greatest God than I've ever learned from any, even the best sermon I've ever heard. Thank you so much for joining us today on Breaking Chains. Hit that like button and subscribe on YouTube. Share the video on Facebook and comment below that you shared it to be entered into this week's giveaway to win a CD on the Voices of War. We will mail it to you right here. From our house to yours, during this time, let the music of survivors who know what they're talking about just sweep over you, lift you, and encourage you, because this means war.